The galaxy trembles as humanity enters the war, bringing an end to all. Doubt's commander Ethan Wright stared out the viewport of the diplomatic vessel as Earth grew smaller behind them. His jaw remained tight, his blue eyes fixed on the stars, ahead. The meeting with the Galactic Concordat representatives had gone exactly as he expected, badly. "They rejected us again," said Diana Powell, Earth's chief diplomat. She stood beside Wright, her dark hair pulled back in a practical bun, her expression as grim as his own. "Third time in 5 years." Wright nodded. "They fear what they don't understand." The Concordat, an alliance of 27 spacefaring species, had once again denied humanity's petition to join their interstellar community. Their reasons remained the same. Humans were unpredictable, potentially destabilizing, and insufficiently evolved for inclusion in galactic society. What truly angered Wright wasn't the rejection itself, but what it represented. While the Ion E Concordat preached peace and cooperation, they turned a blind eye to the atrocities committed by the Valkyrie Imperium, a powerful member species that had been systematically eliminating less advanced civilizations for centuries. The ship's communication system chimed. "Commander, encrypted transmission from the Northern Star," the ship's AI announced. "Put it through to my private terminal," Wright replied, exchanging a look with Powell before leaving the bridge. In his quarters, Wright activated the secure channel. Captain Lisa Reeves appeared on screen, her expression tense. The Northern Star had been on a surveillance mission near the edge of human space for the past month. "Commander, we have a situation," Reeves said without preamble. "A Valkyrie battle fleet is gathering at the edge of the Arcturus system, 27 warships at last count, including 3 dreadnoughts." Wright felt his blood run cold. Arcturus was home to humanity's largest off-Earth colony, over 3 million people living on terraformed planets and orbital habitats. "How long until they're in striking range?" 48 hours, maybe less," Reeves answered. "They're not trying to hide their movements. They want us to see them coming. Return to Earth immediately, Captain. I need your sensor data and first-hand account for the emergency council meeting." After ending the transmission, Wright stood motionless for several moments. Humanity had known this day might come. The Valkyrie had been pushing boundaries, testing human responses with minor incursions for years. But a full battle fleet at Arcturus was no test. It was an invasion force. 12 hours later, Earth's United Defense Council gathered in the underground chamber beneath New Geneva. 50 men and women representing Earth's nations and colonies sat around a circular table, their faces illuminated by the holographic display showing the Valkyrie fleet's position. President Richard Green opened the session. At 62, he had led Earth through its first decade as a spacefaring civilization. "Captain Reeves, please share your findings with the Council." Lisa Reeves stood, her Northern Star uniform crisp, despite her hasty return to Earth. "The Valkyrie fleet is comprised of 27 capital ships with estimated support craft numbering over 200. Their weapon systems are active, and their course is set directly for Arcturus Prime." She paused, then added, "We also detected unusual energy signatures consistent with Planet Killer class weapons." A murmur ran through the chamber. Admiral Peter Garcia, head of Earth's Defense Forces, spoke next. "We can have our first and third fleets at Arcturus within 36 hours. The second can be redirected from Jupiter to provide backup." "How many ships total?" asked Counselor Sophia Hayes. 176 combat-ready vessels," Garcia replied, "plus whatever the Arcturus Defense Force can muster. Perhaps another 30. "Not enough," someone muttered. President Green raised his hand for silence. "There's another matter we must address. 4 months ago, our Deep Space Observatory near the Tellurian home system recorded this footage. The holographic display shifted to show a peaceful green planet. As they watched, Valkyrie ships appeared in orbit. What followed was systematic destruction, precision strikes that targeted population centers, followed by landing craft deploying ground forces. The Tellurians were the first species to welcome humanity to the stars," Green said quietly. "They shared their knowledge freely, helped us improve our faster-than-light drives. They had no military to speak of. The Valkyrie wiped them out in 3 days. Commander Wright stepped forward. We presented this evidence to the Concordat during our meeting yesterday. They dismissed it as fabricated. According to them, the Tellurians suffered a natural disaster. Diana Powell added, Our intelligence suggests the Tellurians' only crime was refusing to give the Valkyrie access to their homeworld's rare mineral deposits, the same minerals that exist in abundance on Arcturus Prime. The council chamber fell, silent as the implications sank in. President Green looked around the table. We have tried diplomacy. We have presented evidence. We have requested concordat intervention. All have failed. Now our largest colony faces the same fate as the Tellurians. He stood, placing both hands on the table. I am not asking this council whether we should defend Arcturus. That is our duty and our right. I am asking whether it is time to formally acknowledge what the Valkyrie have already decided, that we are at war. Admiral Garcia spoke first. If we commit our fleets to defend Arcturus, we might save the colony, but we'll be declaring war in all but name. The Valkyrie will respond with full force. And if we don't, Counselor Hayes asked, then 3 million humans die, and the Valkyrie learn they can take whatever they want from us without consequence. Wright said bluntly. The debate lasted another hour, but the outcome was never truly in doubt. When the final vote came, it was unanimous. Earth would fight. As council members filed out to begin emergency preparations, Commander Wright received another communication alert, this one from a source deep within Concordat space. The message was brief. Arcturus is just the beginning. Valkyrie High Command has classified humanity as harvestable. Full invasion plans discovered. Sending data now. Wright downloaded the attached files, detailed Valkyrie battle plans for a systematic conquest of all human territories. The final phase included the biological harvesting of Earth itself. He immediately took the information to President Green, who reviewed it in grim silence. It seems, the president said finally, that whether we wanted this war or not, it has found us. He turned to Wright. Prepare a formal declaration of war against the Valkyrie Imperium, and send a copy to the Concordat, along with this evidence. Wright nodded. And our strategy, sir? For the first time that day, something like a smile crossed Green's face. Activate Protocol Thunderbolt. Wright's eyes widened slightly. Are you certain, sir? Once deployed, the Valkyrie believe they're facing a young, inexperienced species with limited military capability. Green interrupted. It's time they learned how humanity fights when its survival is at stake. As Wright left to carry out his orders, he thought about what was to come. The Valkyrie, for all their biological technology and hive mind tactics, had never faced humans in open warfare. They had no idea what humanity had been developing in secret since their telescopes first observed alien conflicts a century ago. The galaxy was about to learn why it should have taken humanity's petition more seriously, not because humans sought war, but because when forced to fight they did so with a determination and ingenuity that would shake the stars themselves. The galaxy trembles as humanity enters the war. Bringing an end to all doubts, Admiral Alan Carter stood on the bridge of the Earth Defense Force flagship Resilience. His weathered face reflected blue in the glow of tactical displays. Behind his vessel, 200 warships formed a protective wall around the Arcturus system. The fleet had arrived 12 hours before the Valkyrie. Just enough time to evacuate critical personnel from the outer colonies and position their forces. Now they waited. Status report, Carter ordered. All ships report ready, Admiral, said Communications Officer Susan Miller. Her fingers moved quickly across her console. Arcturus Defense Force has joined our formation. Civilian evacuation is at 60%. Carter nodded. Not enough time. To get everyone out. We hold here. The Admiral knew what the rest of the galaxy thought of human military capability. Earth had deliberately downplayed their technological advancement in all official interactions with alien species. Their ships appeared utilitarian, even primitive by Concordat standards. Their weapon systems seemed to rely on outdated principles, of kinetic force and nuclear fusion. It was all carefully crafted misdirection. Valkyrie fleet dropping out of faster-than-light travel in 5 minutes, announced Tactical Officer Paul Rivera. Initial count confirms 29 capital ships, 3 dreadnoughts, and approximately 250 support craft. Carter touched the small communicator on his wrist. This is Admiral Carter to all ships. Protocol Thunderbolt is now active. Authentication code, Echo 97 Tango. Throughout the human fleet, hidden systems came to life. Armor plates shifted, revealing weapon ports that hadn't existed moments before. Power cores that had been running at minimal output suddenly surged to full capacity. Incoming transmission from the Valkyrie flagship, Miller reported. On screen, Carter ordered. A Valkyrie commander appeared on the main display. The alien's gray skin was stretched tight over an elongated skull. Multiple yellow eyes blinked independently along the ridge of its forehead. Human vessels, the Valkyrie said, its translator giving the words an artificial flatness. Your presence is noted. Remove yourselves from this system immediately. These worlds have been claimed by the Valkyrie Imperium for resource extraction. Carter stepped forward. This is Admiral Alan Carter of the Earth Defense Force. Arcturus is a sovereign human colony with over 3 million citizens. Your fleet's presence here is an act of war against humanity. The Valkyrie's mouth parts clicked together in what might have been amusement. War requires equals, human. You are merely an obstacle. You have 10 minutes to retreat before we remove you. The transmission ended. Carter turned to his bridge crew. They expect us to run or die. Let's disappoint them on both counts. Activate quantum displacement systems. The human fleet suddenly wavered from the Valkyrie sensors. The technology developed in secret over 30 years didn't make the ships invisible. It made their exact position impossible to lock onto, as if each vessel existed in multiple places simultaneously. The Valkyrie fleet began to advance, spreading, into an attack formation they had used successfully against a dozen other species. Their biomechanical ships pulsed with energy as weapon systems charged. They're launching fighters, Rivera reported. Standard swarm pattern. Carter nodded. Deploy countermeasures. Cruiser groups 2 and 4 engage their flanks. Battleship division. Prepare main weapons for synchronized fire on my mark. The space between the fleets filled with streaks of light as the battle began. Valkyrie energy weapons fired at human ships that seemed to shift position the moment before. Impact. Human vessels returned fire with weapons that cycled through different energy frequencies faster than Valkyrie defenses could adapt. On the Resilience, Carter watched as the initial phase of the battle unfolded according to predictions. The Valkyrie, confident in their superior numbers and technology, had committed fully to their standard attack pattern, a mistake they had never paid for until now. Their lead dreadnought has fixed its position to launch their main planetary weapon, Rivera said urgently. If they fire that at Arcturus Prime, they won't get the chance, Carter interrupted. Signal the Eclipse, it's time. From the rear of the human formation, a black vessel unlike any other moved forward. The EDF Eclipse was the first of its kind, a ship built entirely around a single weapon system. The Valkyrie, detecting the energy buildup, turned their attention to this new threat. But the Eclipse had already locked onto the lead dreadnought. A pulse of twisted space-time erupted from the Eclipse's forward section. When it struck the Valkyrie dreadnought, the massive ship simply collapsed in on itself, crushed by a momentary, artificial singularity that dissipated as quickly as it had formed. Silence fell across the human bridge. Even Carter, who had witnessed the weapon tests, found the actual deployment sobering. The remaining Valkyrie ships broke formation, their coordinated attack dissolving into individual responses. This was the crucial moment Carter had been waiting. For all ships, execute pattern avalanche, he ordered. The human fleet moved with a mix of synchronized coordination and individual initiative that the hive-mind Valkyrie couldn't predict. Some ships attacked in perfect formation, while others seemed to act independently, creating a chaotic battlefield that disrupted the Valkyrie's neural-linked battle coordination. Susan Miller's console lit up with alerts. Admiral, we're receiving transmissions from the Valkyrie fleet. Multiple ships are surrendering. Carter raised an eyebrow. Surrendering? The Valkyrie don't surrender. These ones are, Miller confirmed. Their neural network is breaking down. Their ships are losing coordination. 6 hours after the first shot was fired, the battle ended. 17 Valkyrie ships had been destroyed. 32 had surrendered. The rest had fled, jumping to faster-than-light speeds in disarray. The human fleet had lost 11 vessels, with another 25 damaged but repairable. Considering they had faced the elite force of an empire that had conquered 12 species, over 3 centuries the casualties were remarkably light. Carter stood in the Resilience's conference room as reports from the battle flowed in. Commander Wright had joined him via holographic projection from Earth Command. The Valkyrie prisoners are being processed, Wright reported. Initial interrogation suggests they never expected resistance of this magnitude. Their commanders assured them this would be a simple resource acquisition. Carter nodded. Their neural network was their weakness. Once we disrupted their hive-mind coordination, their entire battle strategy collapsed. What about the Arcturus colonies? Minimal damage to infrastructure. Civilian casualties are still being counted, but initial estimates suggest fewer than 500. Wright's hologram flickered as he leaned forward. The Concordat has requested an emergency meeting with Earth representatives. News of the battle reached them an hour ago. Let me guess, Carter said dryly. They're suddenly concerned about stability in this sector. Precisely. Wright smiled thinly. They're also very interested in how a primitive species managed to defeat a Valkyrie battle fleet. Carter looked out the viewport where repair ships moved among the damaged vessels of his fleet. In the distance, captured Valkyrie ships were being towed to secure facilities where human scientists would study their biological technology. What's our next move? He asked. President Green has authorized Phase 2. Wright replied. The Tellurians weren't the only victims of Valkyrie expansion. It's time we reached out to the others. Carter understood. The battle for Arcturus was just the beginning. Humanity had entered the galactic stage not as supplicants seeking admission, but as defenders, ready to challenge an empire, and the galaxy would never be the same. The galaxy trembles as humanity enters the war. Bringing an end to all doubts, Dr. Catherine Cole stood before the gathered representatives of 7 alien species. The meeting chamber was located on a neutral space station at the edge of what had once been Tellurian space. 6 months had passed since the Battle of Arcturus, and humanity's war against the Valkyrie had evolved into something larger. Catherine adjusted her translator device and looked at the diverse group before her. These were species who had suffered under Valkyrie aggression, some conquered outright, others forced into unfair treaties or restricted to small portions of their former territories. Thank you for answering our call, she began. Earth appreciates the risk you take by meeting with us. A tall, slender alien with iridescent skin that shifted between blue and green colors stepped forward. This was Ambassador Kell of the Meridian, once proud warriors before Valkyrie subjugation reduced them to servants. Your victory at Arcturus has been whispered about throughout Valkyrie space, Kell said. But whispers do not free my people. Why have you gathered us here? Catherine activated a holographic display showing the current state of the conflict. Red markers indicated Valkyrie strongholds, while blue showed human-controlled systems. Yellow highlighted contested areas. We don't ask you to fight our battles, she explained. We ask you to stand with us for your own freedom. The Valkyrie Empire was built by turning species against each other, by isolating those who resist. Together we can change that. A small, furry being with 4 arms and large eyes spoke next. This was Nyx, representative of the Star Veil, masters of stealth technology before their defeat 30 years ago. The Valkyrie crushed our fleets in days, Nyx said, voice tinged with remembered pain. What makes you think humans are different? One battle is not a war. Catherine nodded. You're right, but there's something you should see. She played footage from the recent Battle of Proxima Centauri, where human forces had repelled another Valkyrie attack. The battle showed human ships using tactics that seemed random to untrained eyes, but followed a fluid pattern of coordinated yet independent actions. The Valkyrie rely on their neural network for perfect coordination, Catherine explained. But it makes them predictable. Humans fight differently. We plan together but adapt individually, and we've learned from studying the captured Valkyrie ships. Ambassador Kell's skin flashed with bands of white, a sign of interest among the Meridian. You've broken their technology? We've done more than that, Catherine said. We've begun to reverse it. In another part of the galaxy, Lieutenant John Martinez led a team of 6 special operators through the dark corridors of a Valkyrie communications hub. Their suits, designed to mimic the biosignatures of Valkyrie service drones, had gotten them past the outer security layers. 2 guards ahead, whispered Sergeant Olivia Grant, reading the life sign detector on her wrist. Martinez held up a hand, signaling the team to stop. They couldn't risk a firefight. Not here, deep in enemy territory. He pulled a small device from his belt and rolled it toward the junction ahead. It emitted a soft pulse that briefly disrupted the neural implants all Valkyrie used to connect to their hive network. The guards dropped to the floor, temporarily unconscious. We have 4 minutes before the system detects the disruption, Martinez said. Move. The team hurried to the central data core of the facility. While 2 members stood guard, Martinez and Grant connected their specialized devices to the biological interfaces of the Valkyrie system. Beginning download, Grant reported. 15%, 30%, Martinez kept his eyes on the timer. 2 minutes remaining. 50%, 70%. A distant alarm began to sound. Someone had discovered the unconscious guards. 90%, download complete. Martinez removed the device and secured it in a protected pouch. Mission accomplished, escape route 2. The team moved quickly through the maintenance tunnels they had mapped during their infiltration. Behind them, Valkyrie security forces flooded the communication hub, but the human team had already reached their stealth shuttle hidden on the surface of the small moon. As they broke orbit, Martinez examined the data they had risked their lives to obtain. His eyes widened as he realized what they had found. This is bigger than we thought, he told his team. These aren't just battle plans, this is their entire genetic assimilation program. Back at the diplomatic meeting, Catherine watched as the 7 representatives discussed among themselves. She had presented Earth's proposal, a formal alliance against the Valkyrie, with each species contributing according to their abilities. The humans would provide military strength and technology, while the others would offer intelligence, resources, and in some cases fighters eager to reclaim their freedom. The Meridian were the first to step forward. My people remember what it meant to be warriors, Ambassador Kell declared. We will fight alongside humans. The Star Veil followed. Our stealth technologies are yours to use against our common enemy. One by one, the other representatives joined, the Chirtan with their knowledge of Valkyrie biology, the Helixians with their faster-than-light expertise, and others. By the meeting's end, the coalition of free species was born. As the representatives departed to bring the agreement to their hidden governments, Catherine received an encrypted transmission from Earth Command. She stepped away to view it privately. Commander Wright's face appeared on her secure tablet. Dr. Cole, I've just received intelligence from Lieutenant Martinez's team. You need to see this immediately. The data confirmed what Earth had suspected, but couldn't prove. The Valkyrie weren't just conquering species. They were harvesting genetic material to enhance their own biology. Races that resisted were eliminated. Those that submitted had their populations selectively bred for desired traits, then partially assimilated into the Valkyrie genome. The Concordat must have known, Catherine whispered, horrified. We believe. So, Wright confirmed. Their policy of non-interference benefited them. The Valkyrie left Concordat worlds alone in exchange for their silence. Catherine's diplomatic training barely contained her anger. I'll inform our new allies. They deserve to know what we're truly fighting against. Meanwhile, in Earth's most secure research facility, Chief Engineer Frank Wilson finalized the adaptation of Valkyrie technology captured at Arcturus. The biological components, once understood, were being reprogrammed to work for human operators. The neural interface is stable, reported his assistant, Dr. Rebecca Lee. Test subject is maintaining connection without side effects. Wilson nodded, watching as a volunteer soldier controlled a small Valkyrie shuttle, using only his thoughts. What had taken the Valkyrie centuries to develop, human scientists had reversed and improved upon in months. "Begin production of the modified systems," Wilson ordered. "Priority to ships in the frontline fleets." The Galactic Concordat, which had dismissed humanity as an insignificant newcomer, now watched with growing concern as reports reached them of a coalition forming under Earth's leadership. Their ambassadors sent urgent messages home, warning that the galaxy's careful balance of power was shifting. In the council chambers of the Concordat's capital world, debates raged about how to respond to this new development. Some argued for offering humanity membership immediately to gain influence over their actions. Others insisted on maintaining neutrality. None realized that their time as the dominant power in the galaxy was already ending. A new order was emerging, one built not on the Concordat's policy of controlled stability and secret compromises, but on the human principles of freedom and self-determination. And the Valkyrie, for the first time in their long history of expansion, found themselves facing an enemy they couldn't understand or predict, humans who fought not just for themselves, but for all who wished to be free. The galaxy trembles as humanity enters the war, bringing an end to all doubts. General Ryan Powell surveyed the holographic battle map floating in the war room. 3 years had passed since humanity first clashed with the Valkyrie at Arcturus. The combined human-allied fleet was now pushing deep into what had once been secure Valkyrie territory. The Concordat had maintained its official neutrality, but several member species had quietly begun providing support to the human coalition. They could see which way the tide was turning. "The Valkyrie have withdrawn from the Sirius corridor," reported Tactical Officer Ben Mitchell. His fingers moved across the control panel, and red markers disappeared from a cluster of star systems. "That makes 17 systems liberated this month alone." Powell nodded, his weathered face showing cautious satisfaction. At 58, he had spent most of his military career preparing for a war that most of humanity never knew was coming. Now, as Supreme Commander of Coalition Forces, he carried the responsibility of not just Earth's survival, but the freedom of 7 allied species. The Meridian uprising on Caldor Prime was successful, added Intelligence Director Kelly Watson. Their resistance fighters captured 3 Valkyrie biotech facilities intact. This was significant news. The Meridian, once forced to serve as laborers in Valkyrie biological research stations, were now using their inside knowledge to strike at critical targets. "What about the Nexus situation?" Powell asked. The room grew quiet. Everyone present knew what was at stake. Mitchell adjusted the display to show a distant region of space. At its center glowed a massive structure built into a hollowed-out moon. Nexus Station remains heavily defended. Intelligence suggests they're gathering their remaining forces there. Our latest reports indicate they're developing a new bioweapon capable of targeting human neural pathways. Powell studied the station's defenses. The Valkyrie, for the first time in their expansionist history, were on the defensive. Their high command had made a critical error. They had analyzed human warfare as it existed at the beginning of the conflict, not recognizing humanity's greatest strength, adaptation. "A direct assault would be costly," Powell said. "Projections?" Mitchell grimaced. "Minimum 30% casualties for our fleet, possibly much higher." Powell turned to the representatives of the allied species who were present for the strategy session. "Thoughts?" Kell of the Meridian, now a general in the coalition forces, spoke first. "The station's outer defenses are modeled on Valkyrie biology. They pulse in rhythms that match their neural patterns. Predictable if you know what to look for." Nix of the Starvale added, "Our stealth ships could approach, but not in sufficient numbers to make a difference. And the station's inner moon has a radiation field that would detect even our best cloaking technology." Powell considered their input. The coalition had come too far to be stopped now, but he wouldn't throw away lives on a futile frontal assault. That was when Lieutenant Laura Hughes, a brilliant tactician from Earth's Mars colony, stepped forward. At 29, she was the youngest officer on Powell's strategic team, but her unconventional thinking had already saved countless lives in previous engagements. "General, I believe there's another approach we haven't considered, she said. Powell nodded for her to continue. Hughes adjusted the holographic display to show the entire star system containing Nexus Station. We've been focusing on the station itself, but what about its environment? She highlighted the system's star. This is a Class G variable star. Every 76 days it undergoes a minor fluctuation phase. What if we could amplify that natural process? The room fell silent as her meaning became clear. You're suggesting we trigger a solar event? Mitchell asked, disbelief in his voice. Hughes nodded. Not a full nova, but a controlled solar flare directed toward the station. Our ships can be positioned to ride the wavefront with shields modified to withstand the radiation. And the Valkyrie? Asked Kell. Their biological technology is highly sensitive to certain radiation bands, Hughes explained. A properly calibrated solar flare would temporarily disable their neural networks, their ships, and most of their station defenses while leaving conventional systems operational. Powell studied the young lieutenant. The plan was dangerous, unprecedented, and exactly what the Valkyrie wouldn't expect. How long would we have, he asked. Based on our studies of captured Valkyrie technology, their systems would be disabled for approximately 17 minutes before their biological components adapt and begin to recover, Hughes replied. 17 minutes to secure the most heavily defended Valkyrie stronghold in the galaxy, Powell mused. He made his decision. Begin preparations. I want detailed simulations, shield modification specs, and a precise timetable within 48 hours. As the meeting concluded, Powell asked Hughes to remain behind. That's an audacious plan, Lieutenant, he said once they were alone. Some would call it reckless. Hughes met his gaze steadily. The Valkyrie expect us to think like they do, sir, to approach warfare as a series of logical steps. But humans have always excelled at the unexpected. Powell smiled slightly. Indeed we have. Get some rest, Lieutenant. The next few weeks will test all of us. Over the following month, the Coalition prepared for what would become known as the Battle of Nexus Station. The human fleet was equipped with modified shields designed by a joint team of human and Helixian engineers. Special operations teams, including Martinez and his unit, trained for rapid deployment into the station during the critical window. The Valkyrie, detecting unusual Coalition fleet movements, reinforced Nexus Station with their remaining ships. They still outnumbered the Coalition forces, but the gap was narrowing. Each Valkyrie defeat had added ships and technology to the Coalition's arsenal, as liberated worlds joined the fight against their former oppressors. 2 days before the planned attack, Powell addressed the commanders of the fleet from the bridge of the Resilience, now the flagship of the Coalition forces. We face our greatest challenge yet, he told them. Nexus Station is not just a military target. It's the symbol of Valkyrie power, the center of their biological research and the seat of their high command. Taking it will not just be a strategic victory, it will be the turning point of this war. When the day came, the Coalition fleet jumped into the system farther out than standard attack protocols would dictate. The Valkyrie commanders monitoring their arrival were puzzled by this seemingly flawed strategy, but prepared their defenses nonetheless. What they didn't detect was the small team of human and Starvale scientists aboard a specially shielded vessel approaching the system's star. Using technology derived from the Eclipse's gravitational weapons, they delivered a precisely calibrated pulse deep into the star's photosphere. The effect wasn't immediately visible, but deep within the star, the chain reaction began. As the Coalition fleet began a slow advance toward Nexus Station, appearing to give the Valkyrie time to prepare, astronomical instruments on the station detected unusual activity in the star. By the time they understood what was happening, it was too late. A massive solar flare erupted, far larger than any natural event the star had ever produced. The wave of intense radiation swept through the system, aimed directly at the station's position. The Coalition ships, their modified shields glowing under the strain, rode the wavefront of the flare. Behind them, the Valkyrie fleet's biological systems failed as their neural networks overloaded. Powell watched from the Resilience as the plan unfolded. All ships, execute attack pattern Sunfire, he ordered. We have 17 minutes. Make them count. The Battle of Nexus Station became the defining moment of the war. When the radiation cleared, the Coalition flag flew over the Valkyrie Command Center. The Valkyrie High Command was captured intact, their bioweapon research secured before it could be destroyed. The war wasn't over, but its outcome was no longer in doubt. Humanity had changed the rules of engagement, and in doing so, changed the future of the galaxy. The galaxy trembles as humanity enters the war, bringing an end to all doubts. 5 years after humanity's entry into interstellar war, delegates from across the galaxy gathered on the neutral world of New Terra. Once a barren planet, it had been transformed by human terraforming technology into a symbol of new beginnings. The Great Hall, built of crystal and steel, represented both strength and transparency, values humanity had championed throughout the conflict. President Diane Foster represented Earth at the historic summit. At 56, she had been elected, in the 3rd year of the war, promising to see the conflict through to its just conclusion. Today, she would help shape the peace that followed. The formal surrender of the remaining Valkyrie leadership was merely the beginning of the proceedings. The Valkyrie Imperium had collapsed from within, their subject species rising up once the myth of Valkyrie invincibility had been shattered by the Battle of Nexus Station. "The fighting is over," Foster said as she opened the summit. "Now we must ensure that the peace we build is stronger than the conflicts that divided us." Around the massive circular table sat representatives of the Coalition species who had fought alongside humanity: the Meridian, the Starvale, the Chirtan, the Helixians, and others. Their formerly subjugated worlds were now free, their people able to determine their own futures. Also present were ambassadors from the Galactic Concordat, the ancient alliance that had stood for 2,000 years as the dominant interstellar authority. Now they faced a crisis of legitimacy. Their failure to act against Valkyrie aggression and their dismissal of humanity had cost countless lives. Concordat High Minister Ziv Al, a tall being with silvery skin and 4 arms, rose to address the assembly. Though his species was known, for their emotional control even he could not hide his discomfort. "The Concordat acknowledges its failure," he said, his translator conveying the gravity in his voice. "We failed to recognize the value that humanity's different perspective brings to our galactic community. We mistook your adaptability for chaos, your individualism for weakness, and for that, we bear responsibility." President Foster nodded in acknowledgement but offered no easy absolution. The time for platitudes had passed. The summit's first 3 days were devoted to addressing the immediate aftermath of the war. Humanitarian aid was organized for worlds devastated by Valkyrie occupation. Former Valkyrie client species were granted independence and membership in the new galactic order being formed. On the 4th day, the most difficult questions were tackled. What would replace the Concordat's flawed system of governance? How would power be balanced? How could they ensure no species would ever again threaten the galaxy as the Valkyrie had done? Catherine Cole, now Earth's senior diplomat, worked tirelessly, with representatives from all factions. The Meridian insisted on strong military protections for all member worlds. The Starvale advocated for transparency in all diplomatic dealings. Former Concordat members pushed for gradual change rather than complete restructuring. In the end, it was General Ryan Powell who offered the framework that all could accept. "The Concordat failed because it valued stability over justice," he said, standing before the assembled delegates. "The Valkyrie rose to power because they exploited the gaps in that system. We need neither rigid control nor complete freedom, but a balance, a federation where all voices are heard, where power is distributed, and where aggression against any member is met with the unified response of all." His proposal formed the basis of what would become the new Arcturus Accords. The rigid Concordat would be replaced by a more flexible galactic federation, with humanity playing a central role in its leadership council, alongside representatives from all major species. No single authority would control the Federation's military power. Instead, a council with rotating membership would oversee a combined peacekeeping force with ships and personnel from all member worlds. More revolutionary still was the establishment of the Truth Commission. This independent body would investigate historical crimes, including the Concordate's complicity in Valkyrie atrocities, and ensure that the galaxy's history was recorded accurately, not rewritten by the powerful. President Foster signed the accords. On behalf of humanity, the pen in her hand a deliberate choice, a simple tool from an earlier age, a reminder that technology alone did not define progress. As the ceremony concluded and the new Galactic Federation officially came into being, Admiral Alan Carter approached Commander Ethan Wright, now Admiral Wright, who stood with Captain Lisa Reeves near the hall's great windows. "Did you ever imagine it would end like this?" Carter asked. Wright looked out at the assembled delegates, former enemies, new allies, and cautious neutrals, all forever changed by humanity's unexpected entrance onto the galactic stage. "Not an ending," Wright replied. "A beginning." Reeves smiled. "Did you ever think our reports from that small Tellurian outpost would lead to all this?" Wright thought back to those early days when humanity had first discovered the Valkyrie's destruction of the peaceful Tellurians, their first allies in space. How that single act of witness had set in motion events that reshaped the galaxy. The galaxy needed disruption, he said quietly. It needed humanity. In the days that followed, the practical work of building the new Federation began. Technological exchange programs were established, allowing advances developed during the war to benefit all peaceful worlds. Earth shared its terraforming expertise, while the Helixians offered improvements to faster-than-light travel. The Meridian taught military tactics, while the Starvale revealed the secrets of their stealth technology. Laura Hughes, the tactical officer whose solar flare strategy had turned the tide at Nexus Station, now led a combined research initiative focused on developing defenses against biological weapons similar to what the Valkyrie had planned to use. Her team included scientists from 15 species, including reformed Valkyrie, who had opposed their leadership's policies. John Martinez and his special operations team were honored for their critical intelligence gathering during the war. They chose to continue serving, now training the Federation's new rapid response forces. 1 month after the signing of the Accords, the first joint human-alien colony was established on a world at the border of what had once been Valkyrie space. Named Harmony, it welcomed settlers from all Federation species. Its founding charter, simple yet profound, echoed the principles that had guided humanity's rise. We come in peace, we stand united, we build together. As Harmony's twin suns set on the colony's first day, Dr. Catherine Cole walked with Ambassador Kell of the Meridian along the settlement's main pathway. Around them, buildings of varied architectural styles reflected the diverse origins of the colonists. "Your people have changed everything," Kell observed, his skin shifting to peaceful blues and greens. "In one human lifetime, you've rewritten the rules that governed our galaxy for millennia." Cole considered this. "We simply did what humans have always done: adapt, innovate, and refuse to accept limitations others would place upon us." "And what will humans do now that peace has come?" Kell asked. Cole smiled as she gazed up at the stars, brighter and more numerous than they appeared from Earth. "Explore, learn, build. The war was never our purpose, just an obstacle in our path." As news of the Federation's founding spread throughout the galaxy, thousands of worlds that had remained neutral during the conflict now applied for membership. The species that had once been deemed too unpredictable to join galactic society had become its salvation and its future. The doubts about humanity's place among the stars were gone, and the galaxy would never be the same again.